Up next, we have Deepan Siddhu, an expert in growth marketing and conversion optimization. As Senior Director of Growth Marketing at JustCall's, he has played a key role in scaling businesses. Let us welcome Deepan Siddhu to know more from him how he transformed data into dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause? Deepan Siddhu.
Great session by Omar, of course. I'm going to tell you exactly the opposite of what he told me. What is the point of being a marketer if you don't offer conflicting advice? So, a lot of evidences. I'm going to talk you through how we grew JustCall. Just to give you some context, JustCall is a SaaS product, okay, which can help businesses make phone calls. It can do a lot more, but for the simplicity of, I don't want to make a sales pitch here, right? It is a software that helps businesses make phone calls to their prospects and customers, okay? And we are currently roughly upwards of $30 million in annual recurring revenue. And we've grown almost 4x in the last 2 years. A lot of challenges came with it. I'm going to walk you through the challenges, very specific tactics that we deployed, and how you can achieve it for any of the businesses. That you don't have to be from SaaS. You can apply it for real estate. You can apply it for any B2B business for that matter, or lead gen use cases as well. Okay, for that. I like saying this again. I think I mentioned this in my panel as well. I know a lot is changing in our profession, but if your revenue accountable, no one can replace you. Okay, your job doesn't stop at generating lead as a marketer, right? And that is exactly what they're going to be talking about. So this is how the JustCall homepage looks like. You can go take a look at justcall.io. We are the first Indian tech brand to be featured by Think with Google, because they featured us because of one reason. Not a lot of people like Google because the costs keep going up with Google, right? Have you ever observed your cost per click trends? You should do that. How your cost per click has changed in the last 2 years. It would have nearly tripled, irrespective of the business that you are in. Costs keep going up and up. While the cost is going up, we were able to bring down our customer acquisition cost. We were able to bring down our customer acquisition cost payback period. You understand payback period? Or you do? Understand? No, payback period. So what it means is, let's say they're spending 100 rupees to acquire a customer. How long does it take for you to recover that money from that customer? The payback period is usually measured in months, okay? And generally in SaaS, if you have a payback period of less than 12 months, it is considered to be world books, okay? Now as a marketer, I really want all of us to move from cost per lead, cost per qualified lead, and to this extent of measuring the payback period. I am accountable for payback period. I'm accountable for cost of acquisition, customer acquisition cost. If we hold ourselves accountable to these metrics, I don't think people can replace us that easily, irrespective of any tech that comes in. This was a challenge. I remember the time Gaurav Sharma is my CEO, and he brought me on board about 3 years ago. And he gave me a very simple challenge. Deepan, all you have to do is just join us and double the leads. That's it. And I did that in 1 month. Okay. All of us got excited. Okay, is it that easy? Then he said, why don't we do 4x? We did 4x in 2 months, right? Then came a lot of challenges, right? High volume of junk leads, high volume of low quality leads, high volume of low intent leads, high volume of low value use cases. By the way, you can just raise your hand if you think some of this is very jargonish, okay, but I'm assuming that you understand most of it. High volume of small customer churn. As a B2B business, you always want to acquire a customer who are going to spend more with you. But what ends up happening is, in Google, you don't necessarily have that control. Unlike LinkedIn, where you can target very specific companies, in Google, you can't do that, right? And then, of course, the quality of revenue to get it. This is another measurement I think you'll be responsible for in a couple of years from now. It's called NRR. NRR is net revenue retention. That, let's say if you're generating 1,000 rupees in revenue, how long is that revenue retained? Is it retained for the next year? It is retained for the following year? that defines the quality of revenue that you get for the business. Getting revenue alone is not our job. Getting quality revenue that sticks around for the business, that I think will be the measurement for marketers, maybe this year itself. So this was a challenge. I'm hoping that many of you will have very similar challenges, right? Do we? Except for maybe NRR and stuff like that, you would have salespeople complaining you about quality of leads all the time, right? Junk leads, the leads that you're generating is shit. We constantly hear about it all the time from sales, right? This is how our channel mix look like today. These are all the channels that we have built in the last few years to generate revenue for the business. It brings in visitors, it brings in leads, it brings in quality leads, and that leads becoming an opportunity and an opportunity becoming a customer, right? Each of these channels has its own pros and cons. So the one mistake that we do as marketers is to look at every channel in the same way, right? The first thing that you need to educate whichever company or the client that you're working for, that each of these channels have to be measured differently. That, for example, a cost of lead in LinkedIn may be 2,000 rupees, a cost of lead in Google may be about 800 rupees. But the intent and the nature of these leads are very, very different. Somebody who is filling up a form on LinkedIn doesn't mean they're ready to buy. But somebody who is filling up a form who's coming through Google, you can assume they are in market wanting to buy the product, right? But does it mean that they spend only on Google? Not necessarily, because Google will have limited scale, right? Google captures demand. LinkedIn can actually generate demand. But both these leads have to be looked at in a different fashion, okay? Especially if you're a sales team. Typically, when you generate a lead, it's assigned to a sales team, right? And if they approach the Google lead and the LinkedIn lead the same way, you are set up for failure as a marketer, right? So it is your responsibility to educate the sales team. A LinkedIn lead has to be approached differently. A Google lead has to be approached differently. There itself, you have your first win as a marketer. I'm not sure how many of you look at, whenever the sales team complain about junk leads and non-qualified leads, do you both look at what happened to that lead? Yeah? If you're not, you should. Because the timeliness of how quickly somebody is responding to the lead is extremely important. All of us get cold calls, right, from people who want to sell credit cards. Most of the calls they reject, but some calls they just can't reject because of the person on the other side, the way they are talking to you, right? They ask your permission, they call you at the right time, they're following up through SMS. That is how good sales is done, right? And as a marketer, it's really important for you to know that how is your lead being treated by your sales team, right? If they're not treating a lead well, you need to raise that as a red flag in your organization. And it's not your responsibility for follow-up and stuff like that. It is their job to do it, okay? So these are battles that you need to pick up whenever people complain about poor quality leads, your leads are not converting, stuff like that. This is a brutal truth. Learned it the hard way, but I'm happy to give this to you, okay? Firstly, you don't need all the leads in the market. That's extremely important. Every lead, the nature, intent of the lead, how much are they going to be transacting with you, it's different. B2B, B2C, both. Is someone downloading a checklist or an ebook really a potential buyer? Not necessarily. I know a lot of you marketers spend a ton of money in promoting an ebook, promoting a checklist, right? Promoting his educational material. And then you say, I've generated a lead, right? Less than 1% of these leads is converted in a lifetime. Okay? So you can still use content to generate awareness, but that's not a lead. If somebody is downloading a PDF and learning something, that's not a lead. Okay? I think this is where we need to draw a line as well. Because if we keep on passing every type of lead to our sales team, even the good leads will be considered as junk leads and your reputation as a marketer would get affected. Okay? Is someone registering for a webinar really a high quality, high value customer? Not necessarily. That person just wanted to watch the webinar, right? So anybody watched a webinar, let's say 50, 60 people attended your webinar and you're passing all of that 50, 60 leads to your sales team. Again, you are setting yourself up for failure. Okay? Is there a perfect attribution model? For B2B, yes. Okay. I think that is what I mentioned as well. After testing so many attribution models, the one model that we finally settled is first touch attribution. Okay. In case if you don't have technology that can track the digital footprint of the user, that is the first thing that you need to be investing in, right? A good CRM like a HubSpot CRM, it can actually track the digital footprint of the user. When did the lead come in? When did they fill up the form? Which pages did they visit? You can track the entire digital footprint with the good technology, right? And it's very, very important that you have it. Is your sales team qualified enough to have a conversation with the buyer? That's even more important. With inbound marketing increasing, right, a lot of pressure falls on us as marketers, right? And sales team easily get away by saying that may have generated a poor quality lead, right? This is where you need to do a lot of detective work. Okay, it's very important that you go look at what message did they send them? How did the email look like? When they had a conversation with the customer, did they call them at the right time? You can actually kind of automate these things, especially if you're working in a B2B tech environment. We have actually set up Slack channels. Whenever sales team unqualifies a lead, it sends me an entire history of that lead as a Slack update. When did the lead come in? When did we first contact them? Was there an email? The number of call attempts made? And then we have checklists. If you haven't done any of these things, you cannot unqualify the lead, right? So these are systems that we need to build in place for you to succeed as a marketer, right? More than running a campaign, I know, there are enough experts who are going to be talking about campaigns, right? And your data and tracking and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about the other side of things that is going to protect you as a marketer, because you're not doing a bad job. So you're not doing a bad job at all, especially if sales is giving you feedback like, hey, this is poor quality lead. So when you start evaluating these things, what is happening to your lead, you understand a lot more about, okay, what kind of lead is working for my sales team and what is not working. This is, I think you already talked about it, and this is the biggest curse as a marketer. You assume that every lead is ready to buy. It's not true. Okay. Maybe the high intent channel, like an organic search, paid search, the leads that are coming through this channel, may have an intent to buy, may have an intent to have a conversation. The leads that are coming from any other channel, be it Meta, LinkedIn, any push channels, they're unlikely to buy your product immediately. But that doesn't mean that we should stop investing in these channels. We should just have a slightly longer term view that, hey, these leads will eventually convert. I'll show you some evidences. Now, I've talked to you about one of the largest deals that we have ever closed. It came in as a lead 2 years ago, and they tried the product multiple times. Did not convert. Our sales team tried reaching out to them, did not work. But they interacted with multiple marketing touch points over the course of 2 years. They would open my emails, they would come and attend the webinar and stuff like that. After 2 years, the company had become a big company. And when they were in market, the first product that they chose was JustCall's. That ended up becoming the biggest lead ever for a lead that you generated 2 years ago, right? Now, what happens in most cases is you would shut down a campaign when the lead is not becoming a qualified, right? If you keep shutting down those campaigns, where will you get the scale, right? So what you need to have is, you need to have a few checks and balances to assess whether a lead is a good enough lead or not, right? And I'm going to show you some examples for that. This, I think, has been the biggest change that we did as an organization in terms of what do you optimize for, right? Because very likely the conversion action that is there in your dashboard is just a lead. If I'm not wrong, right? You would always generate a lead and then forget about it, right? You would probably ask for, okay, I generated 100 leads, how many of them became qualified, right? Very rarely you would go beyond leads, okay? Now, what we did differently is, we as a company, we have two selling motions, PLG and SSG, product-led growth and sales-led growth. Somebody who can come to JustCall, sign up for a free trial of the product, use the product, and then they can become a customer. No sales involved. And then there is SCB, where you generate a lead, and the lead goes on to book a meeting, and that meeting leads to a conversation, and then that becomes an opportunity, and they become a customer, right? Now, initially, I told you, right, my CEO asked me to double the leads, and we did only this, okay? Sign-ups, and optimizing for sign-ups, and optimizing for leads. But if you look at my funnel, this is how my funnel looks like. For somebody signing up, They have to verify their email. They have to start the trial of the product. They have to start using the product. And they become customer. And they retain over a period of 3 months. And then we get something called LTV, the lifetime value of that potential prospect who signed it, right? It is easy for us to say that, hey, I want that. Not any of these things. So I'm going to set up my campaigns in such a way where my conversion action is, let's say, customer. What happens? Any guesses? It's easy, right? All of us want higher value, higher paying customers. Why don't I set up my conversion action to that particular customers and let my campaigns run? Your campaigns won't work. It's simple. Because you're optimizing for an extreme bottom of the funnel conversion action. So the key, especially with first party data, and they say training your algorithm all the time, right? Training your algorithm meaning you pick steps one by one by one. First, you start with optimizing for leads. Then, depends on the different stages of the funnel, you have to keep changing your conversion actions. And it doesn't mean across, let's say you have a Google ad account and you have 50, 60 campaigns running in different geographies, you need to have the same conversion action across all of the campaigns. It doesn't mean. Okay? So it is about crawl, walk, run, like how a baby would crawl, walk, and then run, right? That is how you train the algorithm. It took us almost 2 years to go from optimizing for signups to optimizing for leads with higher LTV potential, lifetime value. Okay? Same for sales. This happens, right? You're generating lead and you're giving it to them, people can call it junk, right? You can optimize for demos, which is people booking meeting on the calendar. You can actually optimize for an early stage. We are at this stage now, early stage opportunity. But then, sales works in a different way because these are relatively large deal sizes. So even for a company of our maturity, you spend a lot of money with advertising platforms. For us when I change my conversion action to, let's say, slightly higher deal value, the leads stop coming. Okay? So it's all about taking measured step of actions, going step by step, and changing the conversion actions accordingly. Okay? If you directly go for that, I need high value customers, your campaigns are unlikely to work. Okay? These are some examples of how we switched our lead forms. Okay? Typically, when you go to a PPC landing page or a form web page where you're collecting leads, right, you would throw a form at the user most of the time. That will have multiple steps, 6 steps, 7 steps, sometimes 3 steps, 4 steps, right? It immediately throws off people. What is if you look at your landing page conversion rates, most of the time it will be the single digits, 3%, 4%. At best, some of your top performing campaigns will have 7%. Very rarely we will have these double-digit conversion rates, right? It's because the moment somebody is landing on the page, you're immediately throwing them a form and you're asking them to fill details, right? We switch that to a slightly simpler form. We just ask for email ID. Just email ID as per step. And once you click on the button, then it asks for more details. It's a multi-step forms. Okay? Now, what you're trying to do here, you've captured that email ID that itself is a conversion, step 1. Okay? And that becomes your first party data. Even without the other details that you may have captured about this particular lead, there are technology that you can use to enrich this information. This happens only in B2B, not in B2C, right? But make the lead forms less intimidating. It actually changed the game for us. Maybe we're also having single-digit conversion rates on most of our PPC landing pages. But as soon as we implemented this, we went to double-digit conversion rates, and we don't do anything less than double-digit conversion rates, right? So this is one easy hack that most of us can deploy. Instead of throwing a form at people directly, make it as easy for them, but we're still collecting the same information from them eventually. It's just that even if they don't give that information, you still have the email ID to go after them. Okay? Next one, please. These are other different ways. If you go to JustCall.io, there will be a lot of Easter eggs. Hopefully you understand. A lot of different ways where we try and capture the customer information. Many of the landing pages that I audit, that I see with other businesses, right, it'll only have one form. And it is very, very intimidating. If you think about it like a customer, right, How many times you've seen a landing page, with a really detailed form and you've ended up filling it? It intimidates people, right? So we give a lot of non-intimidating options for people to share their data because this entire summit is about first-party data, right? How do we capture the first-party data, make it really easy for somebody to share their information with us? We have something called interactive demo. In most of the landing pages that you would see, you would have implemented this interactive demo. It'll give a feeling to the people that how the product will look like. Okay? So a lot of people come to the landing page and they play around in this interactive demo. At the step number 3 or step number 4 is when they ask, hey, do you mind sharing your email ID before you proceed further? And people don't hesitate because people have already seen some value. Okay? Chat widget can't say enough about chat widget. It is one of our leading lead capture channels. Many of the websites, many of the landing pages do not have chat widgets. It's easy. You don't even have to put people behind it anymore. AI can handle these chats, right? So please have a chat form and you will immediately see conversion going up on your landing page. And finally, nice widgets where people could actually get a feel of your product even before they sign up. For example, we had this AI voice agent in action where you could just put your phone number and you can experience the value of the product immediately. You get a call and you'll be able to interact with an AI, right? It turned out to be a really good thing for us because instead of saying, contact me for sales or book a meeting, this is again a very intimidating call to action. You use something like this, people will play around with it. Okay, a widget. Next one. These are more of the forms, different forms. This is how my sign up page looks like, where we only collect that email ID as a first step. The email ID is then enriched we use enrichment engines. I'm sure some of you will be aware of this product called ZoomInfo, Apollo, right? What these tools do, without asking too much of information from people, it automatically fills the information about people based on their email ID. Okay? And then, of course, we have the regular contact us. But one thing that turned out to be a real game changer for us is that one-click Google sign up. Okay? You will find that a lot in news such sites. If you go to Times of India, by default, they will ask you to sign in with your Google account. And just by one click, you will be able to sign in, right? When we implemented this on our landing pages, conversions went boom, right? In most of our pages, where the buying intent is there, we put that single click login. But what happens is when you have too many of these things, it can actually end up affecting the user experience, especially on mobile. So I would ask you to be a bit wary, cautious about using more of this for desktop and not for mobile. Mobile, you would want to try and keep it as simple as possible. Cool. I think it's same thing that I mentioned earlier. All of us, we want high-paying customers for the lowest cost of acquisition. That's a dream scenario for all of us. But if you are expecting the algorithm to give you that best customers right from day one, not going to. Realistically, we spend upwards of $1 million per month, right? It took us 2 years for us to realize that, hey, the algorithm is now delivering better quality leads. Right? It took 2 years. I'll give you a scenario. 2 years back, it used to be an 80-20 scenario. 80% of a lot of small businesses would come and fill up the form. We are now standing at a 50-50 scenario. 50% of them are small businesses and 50% of them is large businesses. And, like I mentioned, you don't need to have a standard conversion action. You don't need to have standard bidding strategy across all of the campaigns because at least for B2B that operates in multiple markets, let's say US, UK, Australia, India, different markets, right? Each of these markets, maturity levels with technology is different. The campaigns that work for you in the US may not work in UK, may not work in Australia. The conversion action that you're optimizing for Australia may not work in US, right? So that is one key learning that we have had. We also had a very common same bidding strategy across all of our campaigns, same conversion action optimization, right? It's never a good idea. The biggest scam Google has ever pulled is this. I think if you're talking to any of your Google reps, they would always ask you to spend more money on brand search campaigns. Okay, protect your brand. It's going away to your competitors and stuff like that, right? I used to spend a good 30% of my monthly budget on protecting my brand because our monthly brand search volume for the brand term is very, very high. You shouldn't do this. You should always, whenever a Google rep I don't know if I pick it was really. Whenever I say in general, they tell you something, you should always think, what if I do the opposite of it? Okay? So we took a call. You can see the quarter-on-quarter growth. That what kind of an impact is there when I switch off the brand search campaigns completely, right? And we did that, and we started seeing immediate impact going up on organic search efforts. The number of paid search, of course, is reduced because we're not spending on brand search anymore. But all the clicks that were supposed to go to that paid is now coming to me organically. May not be 100%, but a good 80% of those clicks will come and find your website, and they will click on your organic click and they will come. Okay? It may not be applicable for something like real estate, because I've run a lot of real estate campaigns in my past life. The number of affiliate partners that you have, they will have exactly looking similar website, exact replica of the domain name and stuff like that. In that case, you still have to build out your brand name. But in most of the other cases, you don't have to. Even now, whenever Google comes into a meeting with me, they will say, your brand search campaign has to go up. You're not capturing enough demand. No, we're not doing that. And Google doesn't know B2B enough, irrespective of what they claim about, machine learning, algorithm understanding your audiences and stuff like that. Google just doesn't know B2B audiences enough, like LinkedIn. Okay? But the problem with LinkedIn, even though it has the highest quality of audiences, it can't tell me who is in market looking to buy. That's the problem with LinkedIn, right? But what Google does best, Google understands the click behavior of audiences. Which click matters to me? If I'm able to give that signal back to Google, Google can optimize for those kind of clicks that are valuable. Okay? This is where I think, some of, what Umar had mentioned in his previous section, uploading an offline conversion data becomes so critical, right? I was talking to many of you during a break, and many of you are not utilizing that feature, right? You're not uploading your offline conversions, especially when you're uploading offline conversions. Let's say you're generating lead, right? When you upload offline conversions, you can upload only the qualified lead or those leads that you're. Now, what you're signaling the engine is, hey, you may have generated 100 leads for me, but these are the 20 leads that are valuable, right? And when you consistently do that, you can completely automate it. If you're using a CRM, you can completely automate the entire offline conversion uploading process. You don't have to upload the CSVs manually. When you do that, you will see an improvement in the type of leads that are coming to you. So as you can see, there are two types of graphs here. I'm not sure if the text is very clear for all of you. There is low ACV and there is high ACV, annual contract value. Okay. So as we started doing this, as we started uploading more of our offline conversions, the first party data, we eventually saw the ACVs, the annual contract value from Google Ads, improving. It's still not there yet. It's still somewhere in between. I would have ideally liked the graph similar to the previous one, but we definitely see an improvement in terms of leads with higher ACV potentials coming through since the time we started uploading offline conversion data. Another thing that you could do, you may be startled by this fact, a good 10 to 20% of your ad campaigns are being clicked by the existing customers. Especially if you have a software product, if you have OTT, if you have web application, selling in the web application, very likely this scenario is happening for you, a good 10 to 20%, because the customer don't always remember the exact URL. Very likely most of them will go to Google, they will type your brand name, and they don't know what is an ad and what is an organic result. They will end up clicking on your ad, and they will start a login session. These are existing customers, right? This is where I think $1 that you can save is $1 that you earn, right? So what you could do is, if you consistently upload your customer lists back to the system, Facebook gives you the ability, Google gives you the ability, where you consistently upload your customer lists. And instead of trying to do it manually, try and automate it if you can, so that it's more real time, okay? So you will eventually see the number of login sessions. You could go look at Google Analytics query. If you have integrated Google Analytics and Google Ads, you could go look at how many of login sessions are created by a Google Ad campaign. Then you will know how much money you're wasting there. Okay? But if you're regularly uploading your first party data, your customer list, this number will reduce, and you could utilize that money on some of your other campaigns where you can bring in more newer leads and newer customers. Okay. Next one, please. The next one is the biggest, ROAS is not necessarily applicable only for B2C. It's increasingly becoming applicable for lead gen marketers and B2B marketers as well. Okay. We are responsible for, hey, every dollar that I spend, have I earned it back? And how much time did I take to earn it back? Right? So this is where the conversion action that I was talking about becomes a bit typical, right? All of us want a 10 times return, 20 times return, right? It never works that way, In case if you've ever tried target OS as a bidding strategy, and if you had said, I want 10x returns, the campaign would have never started in first clicks, right? In that case, what you could do, you could use maximize conversion value as a strategy, which is one of the key things that we did. Generally, typically what happens, a conversion value is only applicable for e-com companies, wherein every transaction carries a value. You can actually apply that for lead gen as well. Okay. For example, if you see this form, there is this company information and there is number of licenses. Okay. Number of licenses is the number of seats that you want to buy. Depending on which number the user choose. Let's say the user is choosing, I want 10 licenses. And let's say your average number of license costs is roughly about $50. You can multiply 10 into $50, which is $500. And you can pass that as a conversion value back to Google. Okay. Now, what you're trying to do with Google is, you're trying to make lead gen look like e-com. Instead of us, assuming, okay, Google will know what a good quality lead is, what a bad quality lead is. You can actually assign an arbitrary value to your leads. That is why what you're asking in the form is really, really important. You can ask for company size, you can ask for team size, you can ask for number of licenses. And once at the end of this form completion, you can actually calculate that data manually and pass it back as a conversion value to your Google Answer call. If you consistently do that, the likelihood of you training the algorithm is very good. This is what is called training the algorithm. Okay, it doesn't mean anything else. You're just passing the value. You're passing some sort of a value back to Google Ads consistently. Bid strategy, I know this is where I said marketers will give you conflicting advices. In the previous session, you did hear about a bid strategy that is working really well for a business. But I don't think it's the NDA. Okay. It is one way you can control, the auction that you're going to be a part of, right? End of the day, Google is a channel and it's a high intent channel. It works based on keywords, right? It's just that it would be interesting to have more control than just giving all the control to Google. Okay. And the customer journey is never linear. What I mean by that is, I know we all talk about funnels, right? Somebody is starting from a website visitor, filling up a form, having a call, and then becoming a customer, right? We assume that the customer follows his exact steps. That's not true. Have you ever done that? You wouldn't have done that yourself, right? Because the customer journey is completely non-linear, right? Holding big strategy accountable for your business goal is not really a good idea. For example, if you choose maximize conversions, maximize conversion value, why is it not delivering, right? That's a different scenario altogether. Then you thinking about what can I do outside of these ad engines in order to improve my conversion rates. Now, we did a lot of work. Of course, apart from uploading customer lists, passing conversion value pass back, testing out different bid strategies, all of this good stuff within Google and all of this good stuff outside Google. Okay, which is brand partnerships, awareness campaigns, the experience that the user is having on the website, right? This needs to improve in parallel for your campaign to scale and consistently deliver results, right? Otherwise, you will be pushing only one lever all the time. I'm sure 99% of us in the room, we do that. We keep on looking at that ad engine. We keep on changing the bidding strategy. We keep on shutting down campaigns, starting newer campaigns. We keep on changing the creators. That is only one piece of the puzzle. There is this whole big scheme of things that are happening behind the scenes. And that is where I think all of us should spend more energy on, considering a lot of this advertising is becoming automated. Yes. Next one, please. This is the case in point that I told you, the largest deal ever that we had closed. It was an edtech company. A plumbed user signed up. They got enriched as a 50 to 250 employee company, not a big company if you think about it. A 50 to 250 employee company may buy 10 seats, and that could potentially be like a $500 per month kind of a revenue for you. They trialed the product in different instances, but they did not convert. They stayed in the system and they interacted with most of our digital touch points for almost 2 years. In these 2 years, the company ended up becoming a 1,000+ employee company, and they became a customer then, right? Now, the reason what I'm trying to tell you is, if at this stage he had concluded your campaign did not deliver you a high quality lead, and if you had shut down this campaign, you wouldn't get these results, right? Which is why, okay, Deepan, you're telling me things that I can't really implement it today, right? You can, if you're a B2B organization. I don't think this is applicable for let's say something like B2C, let's say. You can actually look at something called the link scoring. In case you hadn't read about it, you should. Lead scoring is, depending upon the demography and the behavioral attributes of the particular lead, you assign a score to them, right? Now, what I would have done, even though it looks like a small ticket size, my lead score would have kept on increasing every time this person has interacted with my emails, every time they clicked on my ads and stuff like that, every time they visited my website. The lead score will keep on going up. That is, another day, even though this lead has not become a customer, but they're still continuing to engage with you, and the lead score is continuously going up, which means you still brought in the right lead. They're just not in market, ready to buy at the moment. This is another way you can showcase value to the organization that you're working for. Hey, they acquired as many leads, it doesn't mean they're bad quality leads. They have good lead score, which means they will eventually convert. That is a scientific way of telling your company that, hey, this is a good lead. Okay, next one, please. And finally, this is where we close it. The job as a marketer doesn't stop at generating a lead. I keep repeating this again and again. You have to become revenue accountable for you to become irreplaceable. Your job as a marketer is to consistently stay on top of the mind of the prospect. It's to consistently educate them and not always sell. This is one problem that I see with most of us performance marketers, right? We sell the product directly. Like buy or get out. We do that, right? Because all of us, we're accountable for delivering a certain number every day, every week, every month, right? This is where it's your responsibility as a marketer to educate the company, saying that, hey, yes, you're doing a lot of good direct response stuff, but there's a bigger piece in which we continue to educate the market. So the easiest way to do it is, let's say you have a 100 rupee budget. You spend 70 rupees on pure play lead generation campaign, for which you're accountable for in terms of number of leads and stuff like that. And you spend the remaining 30% purely on awareness, creating good content, just distributing that content, not expecting a form fill in return. Just keep on educating that target market buyer. That is where the scale will come in. Whenever they're in market, they will think of you, they will look up for you, and they will come and fill your form, and they will buy your product. And most importantly, the last one, integrate your systems. That's extremely, extremely important. There is one pain point that I saw with most of you. Most of you did not have the right reporting infrastructure. Most of you did not have technology that can track the digital footprint of the user. Most of you did not have the right attribution model in place, right? These are challenges that all of us, we continue to have as performance marketers. But if you really want to get to that extreme mature stage of world-class performance marketers, right? We really need to bring your systems and data in one place. It's so understated. When I brought together all of this in one place, it changed then the way we started looking at marketing. Yeah, can go. Final takeaway. Capture the prospect information at any cost. You don't always have to throw a long ass form and expect the people to fill it. You can give them different options. Give them a phone number, give them a chat widget, give them something interactive that they can play around with. But your goal is to capture that email ID in first place. Okay? You can use enrichment engines like Apollo or Zoom Info. If you're in B2B, you can use some of those intelligent engines that can enrich lead information. So you don't have to ask too much of information from people. You can just stop at email ID. Start building and segmenting audiences from today. Extremely understated. Like I told you, the 30% of the budget that you're going to be spending on awareness campaigns, it's not just plain awareness. The goal is to build audiences. People who are interacting with different pages, we can build audiences out of that. People who consume your content, we can build audiences out of that. Eventually, when you consistently do it, when they're in market, they will think of you and they will fill up your lead form. Okay? And of course, finally, be revenue accountable. If you are revenue accountable, you will become irreplaceable. With that, thank you so much. Thank you.